So here's the shutter. Let me take it off of there so it's not vibrating. Hey guys, this is Steve Huff Photo. Look what I have. The brand new Leica M10. It is disguised with some tape because I'm about to go out shooting in New York. And let's turn the camera this way. January 9th, 2017. This is going to be a good year for Leica. I just had an hour-long meeting with top Leica executives here in New York City. As you can see, the wintry cold. But here it is, the brand new Leica M10. I have it disguised with tape because I'm about to go out shooting and I can't have people asking me, what is that camera? Because as of right now, it's under NDA and I cannot talk about it. So I'm recording this video on January 9th, but it's going to be released on January 18th. So I get to take this home with me for a few days to evaluate it, but I'm going to tell you right now, Leica got it right. They went back to basics. It's as slim as the M7. They had an M7 there side by side with it to show me. It feels like an M7. You have this ISO dial here that you can set, but it does go up to ISO 50,000, and ISO 6400 was clean as a whistle with no banding. Back to basics, my friends. Look at that. 3 buttons on the back for your live view, play, and menu. Simplicity. The rangefinder, while it doesn't have an EVF, which I was saying a while ago, well, I wanted to have some sort of EVF, but now after holding this in my hand, after shooting off some frames with it, I would like to say I was wrong about that, because that would kind of take away what an M is. And now that they've brought this back to the slim feel and overall feel and vibe of an M7, I really wouldn't want to see that EVF built in. And the rangefinder has been improved. It's huge, it's larger. I have the specs somewhere, but it's beautiful to look through. When I put the M240 next to it and compared, it was night and day difference. So they improved the rangefinder, they improved the viewfinder. It's slim profile. It's a new battery system because they couldn't use the battery from the M240 because since they made the camera slim, the battery wouldn't fit. So the battery is slimmer, so it's not going to give you as long a battery life, but since there's no video and none of this bloat on this M, you really probably don't need that huge battery. It's got an amazing buffer. You can shoot 100 JPEGs before filling up the buffer. Many RAWs. I forgot the number, it was like 30 something RAW files, so that's really cool. 5 frames per second for an M. Maestro V2 processor. The shutter sound sounds amazing. It reminds me of that old M7 click and snick. So I'm about to head out here in the cold, 17 degrees to shoot. Maybe head over to Grand Central Station, walk around, maybe walk to Times Square, and I'm gonna have some fun. So here, I'm gonna go on with my first look right now. Hey guys, this is Steve Huff, SteveHuffPhoto.com. I'm here today with the brand spanking new, just announced today, Leica M10. Now I know what you're saying. There was the Leica M9 after the M8, then after the M9 came the M-Type 240. Wouldn't this be the M11? Well, look right here, guys. As you can see, the Leica M10, made in Germany. And if you look at this, you're gonna notice something unique here. It's much thinner, well, I wouldn't say much, but it's thinner than the M240, than the M9, than the M8. In fact, Leica has told me it is now the same thickness as the analog, the film M7. And when you hold it in your hand, it's clearly evident. When you hold an M240 and then you hold an M10, you can feel that slimmer profile immediately. And me, I was like, whoa, it's a little harder to grip. I'm not used to this thinner body. But after a while of using it, I became used to it, and it feels amazingly like an M7 in the hand. Now you're gonna be saying, well, is that all they've done to the camera? No. Besides being thinner, which many people have been asking for. I've seen so many comments ever since the M240. They tried to make it a modern M, the M240, because at the time there was no SL, there was no full frame with video Leica, and they wanted to give us that. So now with the M10, Leica has told me they've done away with the numbers. So this is not the type whatever, this is just the M10. Now this camera has leaked out all over the internet before today, and I've had one since the 9th, but I haven't been able to discuss it because I was under NDA, non-disclosure agreement. But I've been shooting with it, I've been using it with a 35 Summilux, with a 50 Summilux, and a 28 Summilux. And to me, while it's not a night and day difference from any of the previous digital M's in looks, besides the thinness, you still have that iconic M shape. And what they did add was an ISO dial on the top. Now this pops out, you just pull it out, and then you can set it from 100 to 6400, or you can set it to auto or M for manual, which is really cool. I love that M setting, and I'll tell you why. In the menu, you can set up what you want that M to be. So say you want ISO 50,000. You can set it in the menu that you want your M selector to automatically default to ISO 50,000 or 25,000 or 12,800, whatever you desire. I can tell you that this new camera, this new M10, has a brand new sensor. It's not the sensor from the Q. It's not the sensor from the M240. It's not any of those sensors. It's a brand new sensor that Leica has put in for the M10, and it has the best high ISO performance of any previous M to date, any previous Leica M camera to date, or any digital Leica camera to date. This beats my SL for high ISO. I actually have a sample over at stevehuffphoto.com in my first look report of this. I'll also put it up in this video, an ISO 25,000 shot, and for an M, that's absolutely stunning. We've never seen that kind of performance from a Leica M, so that's something to be excited about. You can slap on a 35 Summilux, a 50 Summilux, crank this guy up to ISO 12,800, and it's gonna look good. You could shoot at 6400 with no banding, minimal noise, and the one thing I like about Leica is they don't do that mushy noise reduction like you see with some other camera companies. As you can see on the back, I'm gonna talk about that sensor too in a minute. As you can see on the back, it's down to the basics. They did make this bigger, so if you have those diopters for your M, you're gonna have to buy a little kit that adapts those smaller ones to this bigger diameter viewfinder. So it is larger. I will say right now there is no built-in hybrid EVF. They do offer the VisiFlex that goes on the top, which is from the T, so you still can have a big wart here if you want an EVF. The lag is way reduced from the M240 when using live view, but when you buy an M, especially the M10, you're gonna wanna use the rangefinder because it's, like I said, back to basics. So this camera also has a much improved buffer. It has the Maestro processor V2. The buffer, you can shoot up to 100 JPEGs in sequence, 5 frames per second before it fills the buffer. It was something like 38, 36 RAWs or something like that. But for an M camera, that's pretty impressive. If you go to the menu, you can see the menu is still nice and neat from the M240, except it's a little different. You have your drive mode here, which you have single, continuous, interval, exposure bracketing, and your self timer modes, okay? So let's go back by pressing the menu button. Exposure compensation. Now this is an important thing. A lot of people are going to get this and say, wait, I have to go into the menu to use exposure compensation? Well, not really, because what I did right out of the gate, this is what's interesting. When you turn on this camera for the first time, this wheel here is not set to any function. I mean, it'll scroll down in menus, but you can actually manually set that for your exposure compensation dial very quickly and easily. So that's what I did here. So if I want to dial in exposure compensation, I just use this thumb wheel, so it works out perfectly. I think they should have implemented that out of the box, actually. Then you have flash settings for people who use flash. I don't use flash ever, especially with an M. ISO setup, I have it on auto. The maximum for my auto, you can set it to wherever you want maximum. So let's say 12,500. Or I'm sorry, for the M. This is the M button I told you about here. If you put that to M, you can put in here where you want that to go. So say you're out shooting in a nightclub or a low light band and you have it tapped here at 6400 and you need a little bit more, or you want to go extreme, crank it to black and white. I have mine set to 25,000 because it's usable at 25,000. You're gonna get some noise, but I don't really care about a little bit of noise. It adds character in my opinion. So when I want to go extreme, I just flip this dial up to M. I don't have to go into the menus, and I know I have my ISO that I set right there. Maximum auto ISO, I'm gonna set it to 12,500. So again, if I'm low light, no, you know what? I'm gonna keep that at 6,400. So if I'm in low light, that'll be the maximum it'll go to. And then you can set up your maximum exposure time. MISO is right there again. File format, I always shoot DNG and JPEG on a standard M. JPEG settings, you can go, this is a 24 megapixels pixel sensor. It's brand new, and I will tell you this right now about the sensor. A lot of people complained when the M240 came out and said, oh, I'm missing that snap and contrast and pop from the M9, but what they didn't know was the M240 was giving them gobs more of dynamic range. With the M9, you had a limited dynamic range, and it was, shutting out those blacks and highlights and all that kind of stuff, and the shadows. So you didn't get all of that dynamic range, which made you believe you were having these images with snap, and you did. If you go out and shoot the M9 in good light, you had that beautiful, beautiful rendering that the M240 was different on. I agree. It wasn't huge though. I did a test once where I put side by sides and you couldn't even really tell the difference. But I'm happy to say that the sensor in this camera, in my opinion, is absolutely hands down the best sensor they've ever put in an M camera. It beats the M9, it has that contrast color and pop. It beats the M240 because you have that contrast color and pop while retaining the dynamic range. It's there if you want it. Plus the low light ability of that ISO is so greatly improved. This is finally, I remember Leica called the M9 a no compromise M. This is a no compromise Leica M camera. If you want to go back to basics, shoot rangefinder with these awesome little M lenses, and you want to be able to shoot at night, you want to be able to shoot at high ISO, you want that snap and pop of the M9 with that great color, the M10 is the ultimate Leica M for you. You can set your contrast, sharpness, saturation. You could turn on monochrome mode, which will give you black and white, of course. Now this is your favorites menu, what I've been showing you. This is what's cool. You can add anything from the main menu to your favorites, so when you hit menu the first time, all your favorites pop up. But then there's the main menu that has a little bit more of a deeper selection. Lens detection, if you put a coded lens on, an M lens, always keep that to auto so the camera will recognize what lens you have on. And Leica tells me this camera, the M10, takes care of all of the corrections needed for M lenses better than any previous M to eliminate things like color shifts and all of that kind of stuff. So this is the best camera for your coded M lenses. Exposure metering, multi-field, center weighted, and spot. Now this came default with multi-field, even though all Leica cameras in the past defaulted to center weighted. So I'm going to put mine back to center weighted. There's that exposure compensation. ISO white balance, you can do auto, daylight, cloudy, shadow, tungsten, fluorescent, flash, gray card, or put in your own color temperature. File format, there it is again. JPEG settings, we already went over that. Auto review. If you want the images to review, you can choose 1 second to 5 seconds or hold or off. Capture assistance. Focus peaking when you're using live view, you have that. You have exposure clipping, you can set the histogram up, grids, exposure simulation with a half press of the shutter, focus aid, which when you're using an auto or EVF or the live view, you turn the lens, it'll blow up automatically to help you focus. EVF display control, that gives you some selections you can see in there: play, screen, target, live view, screen, target, auto, EVF, or display. So that means it'll automatically switch to what you're looking at, EVF or LCD. User profiles, customized control, display brightness, auto power saving, shut off in the time you say, 2, 5, 10 minutes, or you can leave it off. You have reset camera, language, date and time, format SD card, image numbering, sensor cleaning. So you can clean your sensor, you can open the shutter, all that kind of good stuff. So it's very easy to get through. You can set up your favorites menu. I have mine set up with the drive mode, which will give me single continuous interval. We showed you that already. Exposure compensation, which I don't need there because I assigned it to there, to this wheel, okay? So if you go down, let's see if we can customize control. Customize wheel, that's where you want to go to set this to exposure compensation. Right here, it defaults to off for some reason. So put it on exposure compensation. You could also set it for live view zooming. If you're using an EVF, you could zoom with that, but I highly suggest that. You can also edit your favorites. All of these menu items, if it says on, it's in your favorites. If it says off, it's not. So I'm gonna take exposure compensation, turn that off. I don't need that in the favorites because I have it set to the wheel. So you can do all that. It's very simple, very quick. There's no confusing menus. As a matter of fact, the way I have it set up right now, I never have to go into the menu anymore. All my settings are here. I shoot in aperture priority mode, so I set my aperture on the lens, but here if you want to set your own shutter speed, you can. You could set your ISO here, your exposure compensation here, and that's all you need with an M camera. The viewfinder is a rangefinder. It has white frame lines. Now on the M240, they allowed you to choose red or white, and I actually like the red, even though most M purists like the white. But here you no longer have the option of turning those red, but you do have a much bigger viewfinder. It seemed brighter to look through as well. I looked through an M240 and then this, and you could see the 28mm frame lines clearly without glasses on, clearly around the edge, so that's an improvement. The screen uses Gorilla Glass, scratch-proof glass. My SL I use M lenses on, but I will say using M lenses on this M10 will give you a better result picture quality wise than on the SL. Plus you have a more compact camera. These are actually made for M lenses. So there you go, there's the Leica M10, but it's a beautiful, beautiful camera. It does have, let me show you this. You can clearly see when you take this off how much thinner it is over the M9, M8, and M240. And because Leica sandwiched everything inside and had to make the whole insides different to get this as thin as an M7, that means we get a smaller battery. So the battery system has changed from the M240, and I loved that battery because it offered, I was getting 800-900 shots per battery with the M240. Now this, it's square, it's similar, it's thinner, but the battery life will be shorter. You're looking at maybe 400 shots to 500 shots if you don't do a lot of chimping. So the battery is different. You will have to get new batteries if you're coming from the M240, but that's, you know, that's the price you pay when you guys have all been asking for a thinner camera. So you're losing out on the video of the M240. I'd say that's a thumbs up. Nobody really uses the video of the M240. You're getting a thinner size, you're getting a bigger rangefinder, viewfinder, you're getting your ISO control on top, you're getting simpler menus and customizations. You're getting, oh, let me let you hear the shutter again. So here's the shutter. Let me take it off of there so it's not vibrating. It's a really solid click. It sounds really cool. It feels nice. You got the bigger buffer, the Maestro V2 processor. There's no lag with this camera. You can go low light, up to 50,000 ISO. Shoot at 6400 at night and you're going to be blown away. So this is the first M camera that I feel is truly no compromise. And I haven't even started to even scratch the surface of what this sensor can do. I've only had it in my hands when I'm recording this video. I've only had it in my hands for 2 days. So I can already tell by looking at the files that this sensor is the best one they've used in any M. It has the qualities of the M9, but the dynamic range and tech of the M240 and then some, because it's better than that. It does come in black or silver. The top and bottom are brass, so it's still made out of brass. You got that solid, hefty feel. Nothing feels like an M. It's quality. It's unique. There's nothing else like it out there. Go to stevehufphoto.com and you will see, let me zoom this out a little bit so you can see my hands moving. So go back to stevehufphoto.com and you can see my first look with a bunch of photos that I took in New York. Nothing awesome or anything, but you can maybe get an idea of how this sensor renders. So talk to your dealers. I go through Ken Hansen, Pop Flash Photo, B&H Photo, all good Leica dealers, all Leica dealers I recommend. Links are at the website at stevehufphoto.com. Links are below in the description. If you like this and you want to see more from the Leica M10, thumbs up and subscribe. Bye.